Nestlé. Who has never heard of that name? All of you, and also me, maybe we're their loyal consumers. Founded in 1866 in Switzerland, Nestlé is the world's largest food and beverage corporation. Its products, from Nescafé coffee and Kit Kat chocolate to baby formula, bottled water, and pet food, reach nearly every corner of the globe. With about 447 factories in 197 countries and roughly 340,000 employees, Nestlé brands seem omnipresent. But behind this glossy facade lie decades of fierce criticism. How did a company built on feeding infants evolve into a lightning rod for protest? In this video, we'll peel back the layers of Nestlé's history to uncover the major controversies that have swirled around it. Prepare to hear hard questions and startling claims, from the baby killer infant formula scandal of the 1970s to recent exposés on plastics, water, child labor, and more. We begin at Nestlé's origins in infant nutrition. In the 1860s, founder Henri Nestlé created a milk-based baby food to save an orphaned child's life. But more than a century later, in the 1970s, Nestlé was accused of exploiting mothers in poor countries by aggressively marketing its powdered baby formula. Critics charged that Nestlé's sales tactics, giving away formula samples and sending sales nurses to hospitals, encouraged mothers to stop breastfeeding. In regions lacking clean water or proper sanitation, this meant formula-fed babies often suffered malnutrition or fatal infections. The backlash was intense. In 1974, War on Want published a scathing booklet called The Baby Killer, accusing Nestlé of promoting their products in communities which cannot use them properly, and of downplaying the risks of formula. This kicked off a global boycott of Nestlé products that lasted for years. Breastfeeding advocates like the International Baby Food Action Network, IBFAN, highlighted that Nestlé was still systematically violating international marketing requirements and continuing to put its own profits before the lives and well-being of babies. One study by Reuters notes that formula marketing came under fire repeatedly, even decades later, as watchdog groups pointed out that Nestlé's products in many poorer countries contained additives and prices inconsistent with health guidelines. What happened next reads like international intrigue. In 1981, amid global outcry, the World Health Assembly adopted the WHO/UNICEF International Code on Marketing Breast Milk Substitutes, aiming to curb these sales abuses. Nestlé and other baby food companies officially agreed to comply. However, activists say Nestlé's practices only shifted superficially. For example, a 2018 report by Changing Markets and Globalization Monitor found that Nestlé formulas in some markets still carried unnecessary ingredients and health claims that appear to be little more than a marketing strategy. The report concluded sharply that Nestlé is not driven by nutritional science, but instead by a sharp and prioritized focus on profit and growth at the expense of infants and their parents. Nestlé's spokesperson promised to respond to the concerns and recommendations of the report, according to Reuters, but critics remain skeptical. Nestlé defends itself by saying it complies with local laws and that breastfeeding promotion is important. But the question still haunts many. How can a company famed for infant nutrition be blamed for undermining mothers? The infant formula fight has left a lasting legacy. It coined the term formula war, and marked Nestlé as a cause célèbre for consumer activists. In short, was Nestlé putting profits over babies' lives? Many advocates say yes, a charge that Nestlé has never entirely shaken off. Next, we follow Nestlé's trail to water. In recent years, Nestlé's bottled water empire, brands like Perrier, Poland Spring, Arrowhead, and Pure Life, has sparked fierce battles over privatizing natural resources. Here we must ask, is water a basic human right or a commodity to be sold for profit? In California, Nestlé's spring water extraction in the San Bernardino National Forest made headlines. State investigators discovered that Nestlé was pumping millions of gallons of water, far in excess of any legal entitlement. Under worsening drought conditions, officials moved to stop the withdrawals altogether.
"We have a limited amount of water,"
warned Jule Rizardo of California's Water Rights Division.
"We must protect the municipal water supply and the environment,"
she explained, as regulators drafted a cease and desist order against Nestlé. Local activists like Amanda Fry of the Story of Stuff project cheered the move. She bluntly accused Nestlé of draining forests that are our forests, supported by every U.S. taxpayer. Fry's research had shown Nestlé was drawing far more water than its outdated permits allowed. In one recent year, about 58 million gallons, compared to a rightful share of just 2.3 million. California officials noted that Nestlé paid just $2,100 per year for these withdrawals, a pittance for what was worth millions. Nestlé's response: the company insists it has valid water rights dating back 150 years and says its extractions are sustainable. A Nestlé resource manager even argued that a flow in a dried creek bed was unnecessary, an assertion activists pounced on. Meanwhile, former Nestlé CEO Peter Brabeck sparked controversy by calling water a grocery product that should have a market price. He later backtracked slightly, saying at least 25 liters a day is a right, but still advocating payment for excess use. Food and Water Watch organizer Nisha Swinton framed the issue starkly.
This is not an issue for a multinational corporation to have control over. This is an issue for the public to hang on to and protect as their own,
she argued. So far from a soothing, bottled water image, Nestlé's water operations have painted a picture of resource grabs. Protests have erupted in places from Michigan, where Nestlé diverted water under permits later rescinded, to Maine and Oregon. In Flint, Michigan, where residents famously protested poisoned tap water, Nestlé was found paying only $200 per year to bottle nearby spring water. Should Nestlé profit from water while people go thirsty? Critics say these fights illustrate how a private company can drain public resources, while Nestlé argues it brings jobs and follows the law. In the public eye, however, Nestlé's water wars have been a PR nightmare. Experts like Michael O'Heaney, director of the Story of Stuff project, who notes,
"You have Nestlé spouting this idea of shared benefits, and we're in it for the communities. But when you see the way they operate on the ground, they're very skilled at cozying up with legislators, state officials, and then getting their way."
That rhetorical question lingers. Is water Nestlé's commodity or our common heritage?
The U.S. Supreme Court is set to decide whether two of the world's largest chocolate companies can be held responsible for human rights abuses on cocoa farms in Western Africa. 6 Malians forced to work on Ivory Coast cocoa farms as children are suing Nestlé USA and privately held food corporation Cargill. They say
Nestlé, one of the world's biggest chocolate producers, has long been under scrutiny for sourcing cocoa from West Africa. where child labor and dangerous working conditions remain widespread. A 2015 investigation by the Fair Labor Association FLA, commissioned by Nestlé itself, found 56 underage workers on 260 Ivorian farms supplying the company, including 27 children under 15. Some were found in forced labor conditions, including one child who worked an entire year without pay. These findings directly contradict Nestlé's own code of conduct, which prohibits child labor. Yet auditors still saw children carrying machetes and heavy loads without protective gear. Nestlé responded by saying it was expanding education and monitoring efforts. A spokesperson said nearly 4,000 children in its supply chain had been identified in hazardous roles, and that Nestlé was helping provide schooling and support. But critics argue these voluntary efforts aren't enough. Human rights lawyer Terry Collingsworth, who has represented former cocoa child laborers in lawsuits, said,
"This FLA report, and others before it, show that allowing the companies to act voluntarily to clean up their problem has not and will not work."
He warned that without stronger oversight,
doing nothing more now will leave the child workers unprotected.
Collingsworth previously filed a 2005 lawsuit against Nestlé, Cargill, and ADM, claiming the companies knowingly benefited from forced child labor.
"We hope to force the companies to keep their own promises and end this abhorrent system they have created,"
he told Reuters. Nestlé, for its part, maintains that progress is ongoing but concedes the complexity. No company sourcing cocoa from Ivory Coast can guarantee that it has completely removed the risk of child labor from its supply chain, a Nestlé spokesman told The Guardian. Decades after pledging reforms, including the 2001 Harkin-Engel Protocol, child labor remains entrenched, while poverty and lack of alternatives play a role. Critics say Nestlé and its peers have been too slow to act. As Collingsworth and others argue, only binding regulation and independent enforcement can ensure that products are not built on exploitation. In the end, the Nestlé cocoa controversy is a cautionary tale, one that forces consumers and corporations alike to ask, how can we ensure our treats aren't tainted by injustice? Recently, Nestlé affected by a case of environmental violation. One flashpoint is single-use plastic pollution. Nestlé has often topped NGOs' lists of worst plastic polluters worldwide. According to the Break Free from Plastic movement, Nestlé, along with Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, was named one of the top global brand polluters for several years running. Environmentalists like Abigail Aguilar of Greenpeace Southeast Asia accuse Nestlé of greenwashing.
It's not surprising to see the same big brands at the top as the world's top plastic polluters,
Aguilar said in 2020.
These companies claim to be addressing the plastic crisis, yet they continue to invest in false solutions while continuing to pump out harmful single-use plastic packaging. They must end their addiction to that.
Nestlé itself has announced targets, for example, to cut virgin plastic use by 1/3 by 2025. But critics say actions lag words. Rainwater and ocean cleanup projects can't offset the continuous flow of Nestlé wrappers and bottles into landfill. In 2019, a brand audit found Nestlé was among the most common labels polluting beaches in Asia, Africa, and the Americas.
We need to stop plastic production, phase out single-use, and implement reuse systems,
pleaded activists like Emma Priestland of Break Free from Plastic. The message is clear. Nestlé's plastic output, driven by bottled water, coffee capsules, snack wrappers, and more, is a key driver of global waste. Another battleground is deforestation. Nestlé is a leading purchaser of palm oil, cocoa, soy, and other agricultural commodities, all linked to rainforest loss. NGOs report alarming figures. A 2020 analysis noted that despite pledges, Nestlé was still obtaining many tons of palm oil from unverified sources. In fact, environmental group Rainforest Rescue pointed out that in 2019, Nestlé recorded more than 1,000 cases of deforestation per day in its supply chain. Even Nestlé's own data show that as of 2020, nearly 30% of its palm oil could not be traced as deforestation-free. In late 2024, Rainforest Action Network, RAN, exposed illegal clearing inside an Indonesian wildlife reserve, dubbed the orangutan capital of the world, that was linked to Nestlé's suppliers. High-resolution satellite images showed dozens of clearings where endangered species live. RAN bluntly concluded that Nestlé and its peers have failed to end deforestation for palm oil in the orangutan capital of the world. Deforestation for cocoa is also a problem in West Africa. Expanded cocoa farming has eaten into forests and displaced communities. While Nestlé sponsors Cocoa Plan programs, NGOs warn that it still sources some cocoa grown in newly cleared lands. By some estimates, Nestlé's demand contributes to deforestation of thousands of hectares in Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. When combined, can Nestlé credibly claim to care for nature while its packaging litters the planet and its ingredients help erase forests? Finally, beyond products, Nestlé has faced accusations of general corporate misconduct. One major issue is price fixing and collusion. In 2013, Germany's competition authority fined Nestlé about 20 million euros for illegal information exchanges with rival food companies. Cartel office head Andreas Mundt described how
senior sales staff from the company met for regular talks over a period of years and exchanged information on planned price increases.
Nestlé denied wrongdoing at the time. In 2019 to 2020, Nestlé Purina faced class action claims in the US, alleging it, and others conspired to fix prices of pet food. One case was tied up even at the Supreme Court level, not on merits, but on jurisdiction issues. These legal disputes remind us that even Nestlé's corporate divisions have been scrutinized for anti-competitive practices or misleading claims. In one case, pet owners claimed Nestlé tricked them into buying prescription pet foods with no actual medicine. One of the most damning recent revelations actually came from Nestlé's bottled water arm in France. In May 2025, a French Senate inquiry shocked the world. It accused Nestlé Waters, owner of Perrier, Vittel, and other spring brands, of secretly treating bottled water with prohibited chemicals and then selling it as natural mineral water. The Senate report concluded that France's own government had covered up these illegal practices, allowing Nestlé to hide behind the label of free spring water, while it sanitized the water in hidden lab operations. The inquiry sternly noted Nestlé Waters' lack of transparency, and also the government's on the issue. In a public hearing, one official estimated the total fraud at over 3.3 billion euros, given that bottled mineral water sells for hundreds of times the cost of tap water. The Senate's rapporteur, Alexandre Ouizil, denounced the scheme as a massive misleading of consumers. Nestlé eventually admitted to using banned treatments in some plants and paid a €2 million fine to avoid prosecution. But the scandal tainted its reputation. As one French comment put it, it was Perrier Gate. Other complaints have also surfaced. Allegations of tax avoidance, a common shadow over multinationals, criticism of aggressive lobbying, and accusations of resisting workers' rights in bottling plants. While some of these are not unique to Nestlé, they contribute to the portrait. In brief, Nestlé's record includes bribery and cover-ups, as in the French water case, collusion, as in German fines, and marketing gimmicks, fake prescription foods. These episodes raise the question, can one trust a corporation to act ethically when it has repeatedly been found bending or breaking rules?